Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gone Fishing on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It does help grow the channel. And just a reminder, guys, 5 Reasons Sports, we've got a lot of great content coming up, whether you like the Hurricanes in the middle of their recruiting season, the Heat, the NBA. We all know the offseason never sleeps in the NBA. The Panthers and their potential offseason moves. We just announced our Messi and Co., our soccer side of things as we get ready for Lionel Messi to make his debut for Inter Miami. And we have here the Gone Fishing as well as Flip the M for the Marlins, who are 45-34 on this Monday, June 26th. The Marlins are 6 games back of the Braves, 4 games up the wild card. They went 3-1 this week against the Pirates, 1-2 against the Blue Jays. But all in all, people have to be feeling really good about what this team is doing. I don't want to hold up. I want to go ahead and go right into it, getting your Major League Players of the Week. Your Major Leaguer Hitter of the Week is going to be Garrett Cooper, the much maligned Garrett Cooper on this show, but I will give props when they are due. Cooper hit a huge 3-run homer late in the game in the first game against the Pirates. He's been pretty good since coming off of the IL of late. This week he hit .364 with the .417 on base, .591 slugging for a 1,008 OPS and a pretty clutch performances all throughout in this one. So a great week for Garrett Cooper. Definitely something that you're hopeful for if you can kind of regain that form that he had in the first half last year when he was selected to the All-Star game. Just something that can help lengthen out the lineup and really pick up the slack, as some of the other bats in the lineup have gone a little bit cold, and we will touch on that as well. And your pitcher of the week is going to be none other than the baby goat himself, Yuri Perez. 1-0, 12 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, 7 hits, 18 strikeouts. It's a shame that he's only 1-0 for the week, as his first start came against Toronto in what was a 2-0 loss. But Yuri has been everything you could ask for and then some. Just a fantastic performance yesterday against the Pirates. Another repeat, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 21 scoreless innings in a row. I do want to give a shout out to Braxton Garrett. It really is a shame that it feels like he's kind of been overshadowed lately by the Yuri Perez stuff, because if it weren't for Yuri, Braxton would absolutely be the story of this rotation over his last 3 starts, averaging about 15 Ks per 9. Just absolutely insane stuff out of Braxton. And on the minor league side of things, your minor league hitter of the week, I could make this a Dane Myers show if I wanted to, because it feels like I talk about him so much. He had a great week, but he's going to fall into the honorable mentions, call it a little bit of voter fatigue for this week. I'm giving it to Griffin Conine down at Pensacola, hitting .429 for the week, .579 on base, .714 slugging, and .1293 OPS, 1 homer, 4 runs batted in 5 games. But Dane Myers at AAA this week, hitting .458 with a .480 on base, has a .481 average in AAA thus far on the season. He's been absolutely just nuts. And your pitcher of the week is going to be Cole Kirscheiper. Who went 6 innings, 1-0 record, no earned runs, 2 walks, 2 hits, 3 strikeouts, 12th round pick last year out of Illinois for the Marlins. The lefty with his best career start at Jupiter. So hopefully more good things to see from him on the way. All right, so I want to get into it this week. The Marlins, they're off today, but they've got 3 in Boston and 3 in Atlanta. And it looks like one of the main things that I want to talk about here is you've got Jazz on the mend. The fans are coming out to the ballpark lately. We have the Yuri Perez situation and some new reporting there that I want to touch on. And then just, going to go through a fun exercise of projecting who we are going to see in LA representing the Marlins as all-stars in the Midsummer Classic. So it looks like by all accounts, I would expect Jazz to join the team in Boston and be the starting center fielder going forward. As far as who goes down in that case, You're looking at Jazz and Segura probably coming back relatively in short order within a couple days of each other. Um, Jazz probably before Segura here. So I'd imagine you see Garrett Hampson go down and probably see Jacob Amaya heading back to Jacksonville. Um, this is something that could be a really big development for the Marlins is getting Jazz back because you look at the lineup right now and you look at where they're going lead off Arise, Soler two, some combination of De La Cruz and Sanchez three, um, Cooper likely in your five, Gurriel in your six, and then you're extending the lineup. Joey Wendell's hitting a little bit better, so he's no longer necessarily a problem spot in the lineup for lack of a better term. But Jazz just another bat that lengthens the lineup. But the important thing with Jazz is, especially with the Marlins and their penchant for grounding into double plays, 86 on the year, by far most in Major League Baseball, and that kind of bit them in that third game against the Pirates or that second game against the Pirates where they blew it late in the game. AJ Puck with the blown save. But I don't really lay that at his feet so much as I do at the feet of the offense grounding into those critical double plays when they had multiple opportunities, with runners on base in that one. And I think having another guy in Jazz who provides a little bit of thump in the lineup, it's been a little bit low with Soler, not necessarily scuffling, I would say, but the power numbers haven't been there over the last week and a half or so. Jesus Sanchez is definitely scuffling hard. He's a guy that I might want to see. Maybe Jonathan Davis slides over into kind of like a platoon role with Sanchez for the time being, as he tries to navigate this slump and pull up out of it. And then De La Cruz hasn't been giving you a ton of power. Cooper providing a little bit of it. Luis Arraez, surprisingly enough, providing a little bit of power with his solo shot the other day. But I think getting another bat in the lineup that can drive in runs, that can give you that slugging percentage in Jazz is definitely going to help them because they've got a ton of guys that can hit singles, that get on base and do that. And so what I think that they really need in the lineup right now is another bat that can kind of get you some slug, get the ball in the air, hit a few out, get a couple sac flies. And I think that his presence is going to be a very welcomed one for the offense, especially as they get into this first part of the schedule on the road in Boston and on the road in Atlanta. The other thing with Jazz though is, do you consider, maybe not center field? We all know with the turf toe injury, it's really going to be something that he's going to have to play through and kind of manage until the off season when he can really get surgery to get it properly addressed. So I don't know if they're going to have him come back into an everyday center fielder role. I would expect that that's the case, but I'm not 100% certain as far as that goes. They did cut Daniel Castano or DFA him. So they do have 39 men on the 40-man roster. Not necessarily that I think anything's imminent. I don't have any sources. I don't have any knowledge of the inner workings of the organization. So I don't want to speculate too much there, but it does strike me as interesting that they did clear that spot up, whether that's to call up an additional player, maybe a Dane Myers, or whether it's to make a trade over the next week or two, considering that they are in prime position to be buyers at the deadline and kind of improve the team for this playoff race going forward. But I did want to I did also want to touch on something that we saw over the weekend that I think was really, really positive. You saw the fans show up. And that's something that I really want to touch on because I saw a tweet, because David Sampson a couple weeks ago, in the middle of the Heat and the Panthers going on their magical runs, he went on Levitard and, he basically said, all these teams in the market, they're secretly rooting against each other. They don't want anyone to soak up too much of the attention. as they don't want any one team to soak up too much of the attention and capture the imaginations of the sports fans to where essentially basically in his mind they're all competing for the same set of eyeballs. But in a sport like baseball where you're playing from April to October, and I saw a tweet like this. I think it was from Danny MIA. I hope it was at least. I might be wrong on that, but essentially the sentiment was, especially when you're looking at baseball or basketball and hockey, which kind of are just finishing when baseball season starts up. I think that the fan base is kind of carrying that momentum over from those runs, um, and it's kind of helped create that buzz, that excitement for the Marlins because the fans are kind of in this whirlwind of a drunken stupor of celebration after celebration where it's you've got FAU and Miami in the final four, and then you look up and the Heat are in the finals and the Panthers are in the Stanley Cup final, and then you look up again and the Marlins are 11 games over 500, and it's like, oh my god, where's this all coming from? And it's just this, that the fans have kind of latched onto that high, and it's led to this uptick in attendance that we saw, where you've got over 24,000 against the Pirates on a Saturday, regardless of if it's Puerto Rican Heritage Night or not. 24 grand plus against the Pirates is fantastic. And then you've got 21,000 plus on Sunday for Bark in the Park again versus the Pirates. So this is a fan base that's starting to get excited about this team, and I just wanted to take that time to kind of, number one, just encourage the fan base to keep coming out. I mean, it's fantastic to see. It's really cool to see baseball actually being cared about in this market, and it really is validating for a lot of people that said, well, if you have a competitive team, the fans will come, and the proof is in the pudding. I mean, obviously, 2 games does not make an entire season, but I think that over the course of the season, if this continues, you'll continue to see the fans show up, and the Marlins will continue to reap those benefits, and hopefully that creates a mutually beneficial relationship to where you have the team really really trying to make this something sustainable and kind of build that relationship with the fan base that's never really been built. This fan base, there's not that association to teams like the Heat have with Timmy and Zoe and Shaq and Dwayne and the big three. For the Marlins, it's these brief 1 year iterations before they kind of blow things up. And I think that they're in a prime position to kind of create and really cultivate that fan base through the success that they have now. And really, I think Yuri Perez and Luis Arias are at the heart of it, because how many teams in baseball can say, hey, come out and watch our rookie phenom pitcher who, if you let him go the whole year, he'd be in Cy Young conversations. And then you've got Luis Arias, who's chasing 400, and he's in MVP conversations. So, you've got a fantastic draw for this team right now. They're a very compelling team going forward in terms of, hey, there's star power to watch here, for this team. And I just think all the naysayers that say baseball doesn't work in Miami, I would say bad baseball doesn't work in Miami. To be honest, outside of 4 or 5 markets in baseball, bad baseball doesn't work anywhere. When the Braves are bad, the people in Atlanta aren't really showing up to the games, at least not in the same way that they are when they're good. You look at the A's. The A's attendance numbers are miserable. You look at Tampa. Tampa has a fantastic team. They've had a fantastic team for a decade. And those fans still don't show up, at least not in the numbers that you would expect for a team that has their success. So I just wanted to kind of push back on that narrative as far as with the Marlins, because you're starting to see the fan response, and it's not just in the attendance numbers. It's the interaction that you're seeing online. The team is starting to really generate buzz on social media, and it's starting to you're starting to see that kind of come to fruition in the attendance numbers, and I just think that's great. And I think that it's, thumbing their nose at the people that say baseball in Miami is just a dead experiment. It can't work. And I'm all here for it. I'm definitely leading that charge for them. Um, but just touching back on Yuri Perez, Craig Mish had some new reporting on it. Basically said, this last week, Perez was going to make his start against the Pirates. He'll likely make his start against the Braves, and then they're going to kind of maybe put him on pause. Nothing set in stone, of course. You know, this guy is constantly shattering and then resetting expectations of him. So who knows what this is going to look like in a week and a half. But the current thinking right now is, you have him start versus Atlanta, and then maybe you put him on pause through the All-Star break and bring him back at some point after the break. And I think a week ago that might have been a little bit more untenable. But I think that as you kind of come to the conclusion that, hey, I think you'll be fine with Brian Hoeing in the rotation. He's had really good back-to-back starts. 4 innings of shutout ball against the Blue Jays, and then he goes out and throws 5 innings of no-hit ball against the Pirates. So he's been a really welcome addition to the rotation as Cabrera's gone down. And Cabrera, by all intents and by all reports, seems to be kind of in line to come back as soon as that 15 days is up for his IL stint. So, maybe slot Cabrera back in there and sit Yuri for a start or two, kind of save up his innings for the stretch run here. And then lastly, the All-Star voting, I think it's a fun exercise to kind of go through to look at who can be an All-Star on this team. With the position players, we already know that it's coming down to pretty much a rise or bust on this team because of the fact that Soler did not make it through to the top 2 voting, which I think he should have, being in one of the top home run hitters in the league, while showing off pretty much a career best eye at the dish, and a higher OPS than some of the guys that you're seeing in the DH spot in the NL being talked about. But regardless, now it becomes pretty much an exercise about the pitchers, because Arraez is making it. That's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. I think you can peg him in to be the starter in the All-Star game at second base. You can't say enough good things about him. He's absolutely an MVP candidate, and he's starting to show off some of the power in his bat a little bit lately. Up to 3 home runs now on the season. So I think if he finishes somewhere around 10 and he's hitting 390 plus, you absolutely have to consider him to be an MVP candidate, especially considering the fact that the defense is good. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what metrics you want to bring up. The defense is good. The guy plays a really solid, slick second base, and I don't want to hear anything otherwise. This idea that he's somehow a poor defender at second base, it's just a rehash of the narrative that we saw in the offseason that has been and will continue to be squashed throughout the course of the season. So when we're looking at the All-Stars, I think that there's really 3 guys that you can kind of zero in on, maybe 4, but non-closer relievers don't really tend to get that much love. The first guy is Braxton Garrett. I don't think he's going to get it just because of the fact that he's probably not as much of a household name as some of these other guys are, in terms of pitching. Although I do think that he absolutely deserves an All-Star nod. Aside from that one, really bad blow-up start against the Braves, he's been absolutely fantastic this year. It's really rare to see a pitcher that throws in the low 90s have the strikeout numbers that he does. But Braxton Garrett, the off-speed stuff is just so incredible with him, and he's got a really great chemistry with Nick Fortes behind the dish. He's got a handful of starts to continue to prove his case over the next couple weeks or so leading into it. I'd love to see him there. I think he deserves to be there. but I don't think ultimately we will. Yuri is a different case altogether. I think Yuri gets in just on what he's done. I mean, you've got a guy who, over the course of his first 9 starts, is pitching to a 134 ERA, 5-1. I know it's just 41 innings. Maybe by the time he's done with Atlanta, it'll be 46 or 47. Who knows? But I think that just what he's represented to this ball club, even if he doesn't pitch in the All-Star game, I wouldn't want him to pitch in the All-Star game. I know Skip doesn't want him to pitch in the All-Star game. But I think that he should be there just symbolically for what he's meant to the organization, and really on the merit of what he's done since he's been up in the big leagues. He's absolutely, you can make an argument that since he's been up in the big leagues, he's been the best pitcher in the National League, and I don't think that would be an exaggeration. And then for your other All-Star nods, AJ Puck's candidacy probably took a little bit of a ding, giving up 3 runs the other day against Pittsburgh. But I do think that he would still be a worthy choice. He's been one of the best closers in baseball this year, no doubt about it. And then Andrew Nardi and Steven Okert, I think both of those guys deserve All-Star nods. Neither of them are really going to get it. Non-closer relievers don't typically. But I do think that those guys are absolutely deserving, and I just wanted to take some time to give them their flowers and say that I really do believe that they should be pitching in that Midsummer Classic, because they've really been the focal points of a bullpen that's really kind of carried the Marlins all year long. Because you look at what it takes to win these close games, and you just have to have a bullpen that's absolutely nails. I mean, you look at the Mets now, who they lost a brutal game, leading 6-3 in the 8th inning last night. And they blow it, and Buck Showalter and the team is getting killed up there for their bullpen. So, it really just does serve as a reminder of how fortunate the Marlins are to have this bullpen, and how much that really can propel a team and kind of keep them in these close games for when that kind of, sparky, offense, pesky offense kind of eventually works out for them. But that is all we have today. We're looking forward to it. A really tough 6-game stretch on the road, 3 at Boston, 3 at Atlanta. Should be fun as the Marlins continue this magical run right now to be 11 games over 500. Hopefully, after the course of this week, we're looking at a team that's still at least 11 games over 500, maybe more. I think that series against Atlanta is going to be a really good litmus test for them to see, if they're really on that level as of yet. And we will be here to cover it every Monday. We will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for watching. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Helps grow the channel, helps grow the show. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Wiedeke. And you can follow 5 Reasons Sports on Twitter at 5 Reasons Sports. So make sure to follow, like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next week as the Marlins continue their run. If any roster moves, anything that happens over the course of the week, we will be back with an emergency show. But in the meantime, we will see you guys next week. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you then.